everyone, and it is so wonderful to welcome you to yet another edition of LinkedIn Live with ICF. And we have a treat today. We always have amazing guests, but artificial intelligence, technology, this is something seriously on the minds of so many people. And today, our guest is Dr. Woodward, PCC coach. Apparently his name is Michael, but don't believe it. Woody, you know what? I will let you introduce yourself because you have rather eclectic career that did not necessarily start with academia, and yet right now you are a professor at New York University. So please do tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, Magda, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Yes, for those who don't know, my real name is Michael Woodward, but I've gone by Woody since I was 14. And we'll say it's been more than 25 years that I've gone by Woody. So I go by Dr. Woody Woodward. I'm a clinical assistant professor of executive coaching at New York University, where I founded the Executive Coaching and Organizational Consulting Master of Science degree program. So I came in 2020 to help build that out and launch it and now lead that program. And along the way, I also launched the Coaching Innovation Lab at the NYU School of Professional Studies, where we look at all the different interesting new technologies and new techniques and ways of coaching out there. We're continuing to grow that function. And I also co-host the NYU Coaching and Technology Summit, which is going to be next week, June 6th and 7th in Manhattan. And I know you will be there on stage with us. It's going to be a very exciting opportunity. But yeah, to go back, I didn't start my career in academia. I didn't start with the interest in academia at all. It was something that I got fortunate to fall into and to really embrace. But I started my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Washington, D.C. as an HR consultant, and then became a project manager, principal consultant at IBM Global Business Services, not by choice because they bought us out. They bought PwC out when I was there, and it happened over a weekend. I showed up, there was a sign on the door, and then I had to put my blue suit on, got my Watson chip, early AI, and became a bot for those guys for a while before going back to do my PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. And then during that time, I was approached by two clients while I was pursuing my doctorate because I didn't want to be poor living in Miami. I needed to work. And during that time, I had two different CEO clients who came to me asking about some help with some of the executives they had on their teams that they had some challenges with. And as a lot of the story goes for a lot of people who got into the space, I felt like I didn't have all the tools I needed. Even though I had a lot of experience, I had multiple degrees. So I ended up putting myself through a PCC level coach training. And that was a really transformative experience for me because I had the opportunity to understand how to apply my background in psychology, but through the lens of a coach and the techniques and tools of a coach so that I could show up in a way that would be of value and be helpful. So that was back in 2008 when I put myself through that program. And then fast forward, I was in private practice for a long time, did a lot of media work. I did a book called The U Plan, and then had a chance meeting with Anna Tavis, who was at the time academic director at NYU. And we got into a conversation about her idea for submitting and getting approval for a Master of Science program in executive coaching. And so the rest became history. So, and here I am now.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. In fact, I had the pleasure of seeing Anna just a couple of weeks ago in Singapore, the World HR Congress. And I will add that this is not the reason why we have you as a guest, but we ICF also have a great pleasure of having your wisdom and your input as a part of one of our boards of directors at the Thought Leadership Institute, and in particular on this task force about artificial intelligence and technology in coaching. And I think that's a big talk in just about any sphere of life, right? But definitely in coaching as well. And speaking of PwC, we work with PwC a lot, as you well know. And 2 years ago, we asked the pulse question about AI and the attitude of our members. It was not pretty. People basically said like, I don't know, I'm fearful, I don't understand, go away. All these reactions, which were possibly part of maybe not enough of education, right?
Yeah.
And then we repeated that very same question a year later, and the response was very different. It was like, it's here, it's here to stay.
Sure.
Let's just figure out how we can best harness the potential that AI and digital coaching. So that Dr. Woody is also a co-author with Anna Tavis of this book, Digital Coaching Revolution. It's a seriously good read. But where the interest came from to start with, and then what is your position on that?
So when it comes to the book, The Digital Coaching Revolution, which came out back in March, that was myself and Anna Tavis, the chair of our department. One of the ideas we had was we wanted to really chronicle what we had learned from 2 years of running this coaching and technology summit. So 2 years of bringing together the entrepreneurs and thought leaders in the space to talk about the evolution of how digital technology really changing coaching and really changing the landscape for what the practice of coaching. And so, yeah, we sat down and we had originally, the book was meant to be an edited book where we were going to have a lot of contributors. And when Anna and I were spending time talking to our editors, they said, you guys really need to write it because we had all this insight and this opportunity to connect with and bring this knowledge together. So it's kind of a snapshot in time of where the space was, where this wave that came out of COVID of digital coaching providers that really caught fire. So during that time, because we all know that COVID, a terrible experience, it was a really unfortunate global pandemic. It also served to be an accelerant for a lot of industries and a lot of even thinking and the way we operate and work and how we work. And so what happened during that time is organizations started to realize we are struggling to deal with the isolation, the detachment, the stress of being at home, juggling kids, elderly parents, personal lives, all these things that came together that caused a lot of anxiety, stress, and challenge in the workplace. Most workplaces were not suited or equipped to deal well with this. And so you had an emerging market of digital coaching providers that had come on the scene well before COVID, most of them, right? I mean, you have BetterUp's been around since 2013. I think you had like Valence in 2017. Same with, I think, Ezra. They were all coming online out there. They were kind of surveying the territory. But what happened is HR leaders and executives, business leaders were saying, look, we need help, but it doesn't necessarily rise to the level of therapy or what you would use an EAP, an employee assistance program for. They just need help getting through. The managers need help managing in this new environment because they're stressed and overwhelmed. So your BetterUp, your Ezra's, your Coach Hubs really started to catch fire. Bravely, I would put in there also, really got attention. And what happened, Magda, is that started to reframe how at least corporate America, corporations in Europe, to some extent in Asia, started to view coaching, because what the digital providers were doing was they were listening to the markets and evolving several types of services that fall under the umbrella of what we call coaching to these enterprises to help them solve the challenges that they were having. So
Mhm.
what we wanted to do was chronicle the rise of these players and how they've impacted the profession of coaching and how they've kind of changed and evolved the way we think about coaching. So that was sort of that first wave of digital players that we really wanted to chronicle in the book.
Yeah, this is which is fascinating, and as I said, it is it's a good news. It's
Yeah,
good news,
yeah,
right? Scale has been something that we've been talking about for a long time. How to provide very good quality, right? Because quality is always on top of what we all are after, but also at scale, and
right.
especially with large organizations, that's important. What I would like to address with you also a little bit is the other side of a coin, that being AI and digital support is good for coaches. It's
Yep,
not just that it caters to the needs, demands, desires of the client, but it can significantly support the practice of a coach, right? And
yep.
and I think that this is only becoming um, more prevalent, that knowledge and that education, rather than don't talk to me about technology kind of thing.
Yeah, and Magda, you bring up a great point. So, like anything, this has been an evolution. It's just been a really, really fast one, and we're not used to pace of change like this. We've just never seen the pace of change happen like this ever before. And
Mm,
guess what? It's only going to get faster. That's just the reality. We have to contend with that, right? So, what we've
mm,
seen is you had the digital wave, right? And offering coaching at scale, providing more services. But the challenge with offering coaching at scale, as you alluded to, is coach quality, and the availability, timeline availability. When can people get coaches? How do you get them? How do you vet the coaches? How do you get the best, most well-trained coaches? How do you maintain quality? How do you ensure quality? So those are all very difficult things. Any kind of human service is really hard to scale. Even with the use of digital technology, they could scale it more than we could before, no
mm,
doubt. They can ensure more consistency and quality than we could before, yes. But the challenge is there's a lot of spaces out there where coaching is still needed,
mm,
or human development support is needed, right? And it not doesn't always fall under what we traditionally think of as coaching, but
mm,
sometimes what people out there are calling coaching. And so we have to respect the fact that there are people that need help, and we may not be able to scale enough human coaches, right, to help everybody. So
mm.
sometimes it's not about taking the place of someone, but how are we filling a void or a
Avoid.
space that we can't necessarily fill. So, but that's really when we're talking about coach bots, right? So what tends to be on everyone's mind when we talk about AI is our AI bots or agents, aka ChatGPT 4.0 now, right?
Right.
So we saw the spring release, and if you haven't, anyone out there, go watch it. The video, it's absolutely fascinating. I got to watch it
Fascinating.
live when it came out. And here's the reality, right? It gets a ton of attention because of the fact that it is a very conversational tool, that they've enhanced tremendously since the first release just a little over a year and a half ago. Um, and yes, it has now more capabilities. It has emotional detection capabilities. It has visioning capabilities. It can actually read using your phone camera. It could read and help you solve a math problem. It could read and look at and describe the room that you're in, right? So it has vision. It can detect, to some extent, from what we've seen, emotional reactions, facial expressions. This is all stuff that we did not expect, at least people like me who follow the space, to come this
Soon.
fast,
Yeah, yeah,
this
exactly.
soon. Yeah, I mean, and particularly emotional detection. So in reality, the capabilities are enhancing quite a bit. Are they going to have some hiccups and fits and starts? No doubt, but it's still moving forward and moving forward very quickly. That said, okay, so we know that these capabilities are evolving. Um, at the end of the day, though, when that's not all that AI is, right? So there are a lot of tools out there that are AI driven that don't involve a generative interactive coach bot, right? Where it's query systems, it's data collection analysis, reporting out, providing guidance and assistance. So to me, I think when you look at the AI landscape, be healthy skepticism is really important. I encourage it, absolutely. At the same time, I don't don't fear what's coming. I think focus your attention rather on how to best learn about
Right?
what's being put out there and understand how you can utilize those tools to make yourself a more successful coach. Because Magda, the reality is in many professions, many white collar, office worker, knowledge worker type professions, AI is going to enable one individual to do the work of like 3, 5, 10, who knows how many, right? So either you become a super user of the technology to be one of those who enhances your ability, or you get left behind.
Exactly.
That's the reality, right? It's a new industrial type revolution that we have going on with this technology. So to me, I think that I call it the EAT. I'm not allowed to name things, my EAT model, but I posted this the other day on LinkedIn where there are 3 things that I think that AI technology can help a coach with. It's enhancement, access, and time, right?
Mhm.
So I think that using these tools can enhance your ability to provide better, more consistent services because and a more robust coaching experience because these tools can nudge between clients in the space between sessions, right? So we know you have a session and there's space between. It could be a week, 2 weeks, a month, even, right? So what happens in that space between where you may not be available? We have nudging technology, by the way, is not new, and AI isn't the driver of that. It's been around, but AI tools have enhanced it, right?
Mhm.
So nudging, curating, learning content, the AI to be able to answer questions, basic Q&A, track milestones throughout the process so that you as a coach don't have to do that. It can be automated for you, right? You
Yeah.
would access it, review it. So that's the enhancement part. Super important. Look, I already mentioned access. Access for more people to get the benefit of some type of human development service,
Mhm.
aka like a bot type coach that can be
Mhm.
deployed, say for inner city high school where you have kids who the ratio of counselor to students is 400 to 1, and that counselor can't possibly help all the students. So guess what? They supervise a bot proprietarily designed to answer certain types of questions and help them, right?
Mhm.
That's the access. And then the third one, time, in EAT, um, is just it's giving you time back as a coach so you can focus on being
Yours. Yeah.
present. Yeah,
Mhm.
your own reflections, your own development, and being there and being present for the client. So that's where I really think there's a ton of benefit.
I think that this is brilliant. Several years back, and it had nothing to do with technology. It was just a research that we've done with ICF, and we talked to many, many, many coach practitioners, primarily individuals with their private solo practice.
Mhm.
It is still true that majority of coaches, at least ICF members, are.
Sure. Yeah.
What we found out was the typical coach was coaching about 30% of their time. The rest of it was running the business of coaching,
Yep. Yep.
right? And those technology or AI powered solutions are exactly helping there. You don't need to schedule the meetings. The program will do it for you. The nudging, the reminders, the invoicing, even the notes. Uh, for ICF, all our board meetings now are being recorded by AI, and
Yeah.
it gives us instantaneously, right? Of course, you have to review it. Of course, and as you said, healthy skepticism is
Yeah.
healthy. But it's such a tremendous support, and in fact, um, bringing the time back to whatever a coach may decide to use their time to be even a better professional for the success of their coaches. So that's really super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, and Magda, but this is the point, right? For what OpenAI has done
Mm.
is they have actually democratized the most advanced technology out there available to the public, and they've made it available to anyone for free. So here's why it's important for the vast majority of ICF members and those who are individual coaches, whether you're a full-time coach or a part-time coach, you have access to the kind of technology that typically has been the domain of large corporate providers or digital coaching technology providers. So you don't have to work through one of them to have access to this type of technology. You can get it yourself, or you can get variations of this that are offered out there for consumers, because there are people that are using OpenAI's ChatGPT technology to create coaching tools. Some not so good. So, I mean, and that's what we have to start thinking about, how to vet these better. But that's where I think for individual members, that's the good news about what OpenAI has done, just to democratize the technology and allow more access for just individual users, aka an ICF member coach, versus just having to go with a company who builds their own and you have to be part of that company to use theirs. So it's a huge advantage for us.
I also think about another facet maybe of that conversation, and it is that, like it or not, majority of coaching clients are also dealing with some huge enthusiasm about utilizing AI, and some maybe that more of a fearful space.
Right.
So I think that this is also important for us to have coaches being more comfortable with AI, therefore they can be a better resource for the clients they are working with. Did you notice?
Absolutely. Yeah, Meg, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing, look, all organizations that want to be competitive in the modern world are looking at ways to integrate AI. You now see chief AI officers at companies. Whenever you get a chief role, you get a C in front of it, that means they're taking it very seriously. They're putting someone in charge. And here's the thing, and I want to make sure I comment on the fact that as an organization, Magda, ICF is also paying close attention to this. And this was part of why we put together the AI and Coaching Task Force. And for those watching, what this came out of the Thought Leadership Institute, where Magda mentioned I'm a board member, and we had proposed it at our board meeting a year ago, Magda, to you and the rest of the board. We said, hey, look, we should formalize how we look at this. And of course, as any good recommendation, you came back to me and said, well, Woody, take that on. And we gladly have. And part of what we've done is to convene some of the most influential actors in the space. So machine learning developers, even academics who research it, those who are building the tools, as well as coaches, because we want to make sure that as an organization, we have influence on the continued development and the future of these tools that are being deployed in our space. So they're not being created by opportunistic technologists who don't understand coaching, which that happens, by the way, in all professions, right? We're not unique in that. And so we're hoping through conversations like this, through some of the work that the task force is doing, and Magda, I know that you and the board are doing, is to create more awareness and ultimately help identify ways that our members can be better informed. And that, it takes us time. We're doing what we can, but I think that it's important that we do that. And one of the things, Magda, we've learned is just how we talk about AI is important, because it's challenging. It sparks some existential threat, at least that feeling. And we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to educate those out there, members and the larger coaching community, as to how to best embrace and be part of the conversation and not just to fear it. But again, with healthy skepticism, absolutely.
With healthy skepticism, which in particular, and I think that this is, again, our responsibility, is the ethics side.
Yes.
right? And we saw it, as you said, that this is not just impacting coaching, and technology disrupted so many other professions and fields before. Typically, what we do observe is that the technology goes a little bit faster than thoughts about ethics of using it, right?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So I think that this is again very important facet of the work of the task force and ICF in that sphere, is to say and to have conversation with those developers saying like, wait. And did we address this? Did we address that? How do you plan on addressing it? So I think that that's again something that is our obligation as the largest coaching organization, but also a seriously important part, so that people are not afraid of the new application, but rather can have a certain level of certainty, right? Certain level of certainty. That those very important ethical questions, or questions about ethics of application of those tools and solutions, are being discussed and addressed.
Yeah, Magda, absolutely. I can't echo that sentiment enough. The developers, those who deploy and use these technologies, and the technologies themselves, I guess you could say, need to be held to the same ethical standards when they're being applied in coaching as you, me, all of our members are held to. And we have, a really strong code of ethics. I know it's reviewed every year. I think it's going through review right now, that we look at. And I know we need to think more about how do we expand that to cover what's going on out there. But to your point, it moves so fast. And look, and we saw this challenge with social media. Like we are where we are today with social media because there was no thoughtful regulation. There was no thoughtful considerations around ethical use, ethical ramifications of the just kind of rapid fire growth and wild use and misuse of social media, which puts us where we are today. I mean, the Digital Millennium Act, I think, is the only, in 2000s, the only legislation even covering these technologies like social media or even like AI. So we really, Europe's ahead of us, no doubt about it. We need to think of ways to catch up, but I think it's incumbent on us as an organization to continue to think about this and ponder how we best help our members make sense out of all this.
Absolutely. I think that that's precisely our spot and our duty at the same time. And as always, we are at the end of our time. So thank you, Woody, so much for joining us today. I am absolutely certain that this conversation sparked a lot of maybe pondering, maybe some reflection, maybe some questions. And we certainly would love to hear from our viewers as we move forward. So thank you again, not only for being our guest today, but also for everything that you, the New York University, and you, of course, on behalf of ICF Thought Leadership Institute are doing. So thanks so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, take good care. Bye-bye.